One
Oh,
of my,
yeah.
oh, okay, I guess it's starting. Or something happening here?
He's going to record it.
Sorry.
Okay.
Hey, Bob.
Just to let you know.
Hey.
And I'm going to get everyone here in the club organized. So thank you for joining. I'm hoping the audio today will be a lot better. And
Okay.
we'll see how this goes.
We can hear you well, Jay. I don't know if you can hear us. Probably not. I'll text it.
Also, to let you know, I got your microphones live with the speaker here, so you'll probably want to mute like you do, and then you'll be able to jump in with audio to the club, okay?
Sounds good.
Hey, okay. All right, everyone, if you want to take a seat, we're going to start the meeting. It doesn't work for us. It works for them to talk to us. Hey, everyone, we're starting the meeting, okay? All right, everyone, the meeting's starting. You're not on camera yet. You're not yet. They all are right now. This one you have to pan. This one faces this way. Yeah. All right. Well, thank y'all. Welcome to our second meeting live in like 2 years. So that's pretty exciting. We'll see if this is going. Wrong thing was clicked on. All right, we have a bunch of people on Zoom with us today. I think Dave Turner just joined us. So Marty, for you to keep track of. And then we also have Kim and we have Bob Groening. So who else do we have on today? Angie. Awesome. Whole bunch of people. So they're on mute right now, but they're hooked up to a speaker. So when they want to interject, they can annoy us live as well, which they couldn't do last week. So it's an exciting. Another thing just to note, we're recording it. And I think the end goal is we're going to try to record some of these amazing presenters that we have and put them on YouTube. And then, so just so that you know, probably keeping your public voices on while we're here today. So also have a couple microphones, hand mics. So when we have things we want to say so people can hear us better on Zoom, they're wireless and they'll work for you. So I'll be able to pass those around, okay? Agenda today. We'll be doing our bell ringing. We've got our normal start stuff and Marty will do our Rotary Minute. We'll have some announcements and then we'll do Happy Bucks and move on to the presentation. So today we'll start with pledge. All right, allegiance. One nation. Okay. True. Fair to all concerned. Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? All right, Marty.
Okay,
So one of Rotary International's areas of focus is education. And so I want to just talk a bit now about education, particularly for girls and women in our world. One of our EYE's goals is to reduce gender disparity. Yes, please sit down. No, you need to stay up. One of our EYE's goals is to reduce gender disparity in education around the world. Around the world, 132 million girls are out of school, including 34.3 million of primary school age, 30 million of lower secondary school age, and 67.4 million of upper secondary school age. Globally, the cost of girls not completing their secondary education is estimated at up to $30 trillion. An example, in sub-Saharan Africa, low educational attainment for girls leads not only to earning losses, but also to child marriage and early childbearing, lack of decision-making ability in the household, higher risk of intimate partner violence, and higher risk for children to be stunted or die before age 5. These effects are pervasive across many countries. I've read about Rotary's projects, including in Afghanistan. Rotary members opened a girls' school to break the cycle of poverty and social imbalance. Malala is a Pakistani activist for female education and the youngest person to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. On October 9th, 2012, she was shot by Taliban gunmen as she was riding on a bus after finishing an exam. Her words, "I speak not for myself, but so those without a voice can be heard. Those who have fought for their rights, the right to live in peace, the right to be treated with dignity, their right to equality of opportunity, their right to be educated."
Thank you, Marty. All right, do we have any guests today? Oh.
Eric is an honorary Paul Harris Fellow and was honored as Citizen of the Year in your area by a group of Rotary Club. So, I don't know if you want to say anything.
Well, this is all new to me. I spent 20 years in civic stuff at my community. And when I told them I was leaving, they decided to start throwing all kinds of honors at me. I'm not quite sure how to take that, but I do believe in your 4 basic premises there. And that's what I've done. I guess they recognize that all my life. It comes with a 1-year paid scholarship, so I am a Rotarian now. I'm just on the road, so I haven't figured out which group I'm going to join. So you guys are being interviewed.
I like that. He's a roadtarian. Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today. A couple club announcements. So to start, we've got club assembly on the last Wednesday of this month. So that's going to be just kind of filling us in on the quarter and all the new stuff that's come up. I think our big news for today is peach sales information. So would love to have Lou and Bob talk about that. I think, Bob, if you unmute yourself, we'll be able to hear you.
I'm on.
Awesome. So if you want to talk a little bit, Bob, it'd be great to hear your update today on peach sales.
Yeah, we're as of right now, I just looked, we're probably about 230 when you figure the half boxes as well. Long way to go. I realized that a lot of people have not gotten me any of their numbers. So hopefully you've got lots of orders that you haven't sent to me yet. We've still got about 3 weeks before we need to put our order in. So there's still a lot of time for you to solicit neighbors and friends and anybody that you know. I realize there's a lot of competition going on. We've got Niwot is doing their peaches on the 7th. I think Longmont, some of the schools or the bands have got peaches later in the month. This is the time of the year for peaches, but we've sold, upwards of 1,000 boxes before, so we ought to be able to do it again. And for Jay's benefit, we need some money in the kitty so that we can give it away during his year. So now's the time. Don't forget, there's jam, vinegar, and a few bottles of barbecue sauce that can be sold as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're definitely getting close. I think on the web sales right now, as of last night at about midnight, it was just over $2,500 in sales on the website too. So yeah, it's exciting. We're getting close, but we're getting close to the deadline too. So we only have a few weeks left. So everyone needs to get their numbers in to Bob if you can, and that would be helpful just so that we can be prepared. A couple other updates here. For community service updates, we have Mary Beth is volunteering the end of this month, I think, at the Chase House for that for dinner. And then we also have the Literacy Award, which has a deadline of August 15th. And I've already got a submission for that one. So if you have any Literacy Award submissions, please send them in to me, and we'll field those as they come in. So grants committee, Beth wanted to just reach out and say if anyone's interested in joining, that's looking for, to bolster the membership and just have a nice, good selection of people from all across the club. So if you have time, it'd be great to join. And then Marty, we've got an award to give to Beth. So if you want to come up and take the mic.
Beth wasn't able to be at the installation dinner, so I wanted to acknowledge her. When I first started my term, the website and Facebook were in dire need of help. And I remember an email I got from Lou, Marty, website and Facebook, help please, or something like that. And so Beth stepped up to the plate to work on the website and to get that more up to date and improved. And then in later months, Anne has helped really get Facebook up to a great level. Also, we needed somebody to do a newsletter. And so Beth stepped up to the plate to do the newsletter also. And so thanks to Beth, we now again have a monthly newsletter, and we really appreciate that. So the award says Club Administration, Beth, honored by outstanding devotion and leadership of our club. So congratulations.
Kim, are you? Well, no, I don't know. Sorry.
Wait, I'm not getting sound.
Oh, she doesn't. She said she doesn't. Yeah, and that's definitely a reality. I was just listening to a story about someone in Pakistan with a similar situation not very long ago. It was in a podcast from, might have been the New York Times, but yeah, it's a reality. I had a lot of friends in grad school in the same situation. Yeah. Yeah. Well, if anyone does have contact information and can check in, that'd be awesome. Well, we had a couple repeats on the district announcements. So for those who weren't here last week or weren't able to read any of the district emails, there's actually Grand Lake Fire Relief. There's a trail rebuild from the East Troublesome Fire on the 24th. So that's coming up pretty quick here. And they said that it's not backbreaking work. It's mostly raking. What they said, mostly raking. So I think for a lot of people that is backbreaking work. But anyhow, they're taking the snowshoe trail up and that ridge area and the tree line there, and they're going to be converting the snowshoe trail into the new trail, and then the old trail is burned out, so they're retiring it for now. Also, the Rotary 101 event, very similar to our fireside chat, which most of you haven't been privy to because you're members far before Bob started doing them, but or in the years that you joined may not have happened. But the district is hosting a Rotary 101 event. That'll be August 10th. It's an evening virtual meeting. Again, the Woo Humanity Bike event, which is one of the biggest fundraisers the district has ever had already, was postponed from last year, will be happening this year. So if you are interested, they are still having signups for people to do that bike race, and they're multiple distances. So if you just want to do an easy jaunt, or if you want to go for a whole century or double century, I'm sure that they can accommodate you. The last one is a fun one, the Rockies game. That'll be September 26th. So if y'all are interested, I got a bunch of tickets, and yeah, definitely come out, and that would be a lot of fun. For the few of us who are now in Denver and come up here for the meetings, that might also be a little bit easier for us. Walking distance. All right, so on to our next bit, which is one of our club favorites, and Happy Bucks. So if for those who are not familiar, Happy Bucks is where we take a moment to tell people something great that's happened or some good news in the club, and in so doing, you drop a few dollars in. And this month, we're putting all proceeds to the Alzheimer's Association. So that will be at the end of the month. We'll have a count. Last week, we got $90, which is one of the biggest Happy Bucks collections we've ever had. So people are happy to be back, and it's time to do Happy Bucks. So if you have anything to add, please let us know. I see Bob here.
Jay? Jay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I just wanted to say that again this year I have an Alzheimer's team. Several of you have already donated, and I appreciate that. This month, the Happy Dollars are addition to the Alzheimer's team. If you've and there's a walk that is coming up this fall. If anybody's interested in participating in that as well. If any of you have ever known anyone that has Alzheimer's, it's a dreadful disease. It's certainly not something that I ever want to participate with. And having been involved with interagency and with the seniors, and certainly living out here in Anthem and knowing a number of people that have gone through different stages of Alzheimer's, somehow, somewhere, we need to find a cure for this thing. They keep talking about possibilities, but I think we're a long ways away. So any Happy Dollars this month that would go to that is going to benefit things as well. And thank you.
I wanted to make an announcement that we have a new member in our club now. Ellen Miller finished her fireside chat last night, so she will be installed on the Rotary International site as a member assigned to Flatirons Rotary Club sometime today. And then Jay will schedule her her initiation into the club as soon as we get it on the agenda. But she's completed all the requirements, and she's in our club. It's about a minute away.
this. I'm putting in a couple of dollars because today is my son-in-law's birthday on Bastille Day. And the fact that I have a son-in-law this old is really horrifying.
I just want to follow up with what Bob G said. I don't know how many of you know this, but our own Katie Goff, our member here, her husband is in the later stages of Alzheimer's, and I don't know how many of you knew that. And so that is we haven't seen her for quite some time. And so I just want you to think about Katie, and it's really tough. And as Bob said, it's hard on them family members too, extremely difficult on the family members. So just wanted to shout that out there.
So my mom had Alzheimer's, so I'm donating certainly, but also Happy Dollars. The reason I couldn't get to the installation dinner is I had the opportunity to spend 4 days with my autistic grandson, taking care of him, and it was absolutely the most beautiful time. So no offense, I take grandson over installation dinner.
Today at noon, I pick up one granddaughter and 3 great grandchildren at the airport and bring them here for a 4-day visit. So that's exciting. Do we have a banker in the club? Well, it was my birthday yesterday and I need a loan. So I don't know.
I can do Bob, I can do a reverse mortgage for you.
Happy birthday, Bob. I'm happy because I had a great time fishing with our kids on the Dream Stream and 11 Mile Canyon, and we all did very well, though I must say I had too many long distance releases, which is when you have the fish on and it's about to go in your net and it just breaks off. So, but we still call that well, yeah, kind of, but it was a lot of fun. But my daughter, who's fairly new to fishing, she said that doesn't count. I said, yes, it does. Long-term release, yes, it does.
Well, to echo what Ann said, our motto is a fish hooked is a fish caught. If you're catching and releasing, which everybody should do, what difference does it make? This is $2 for Alzheimer's, which my aunt died of, and so I know all about that.
I got a happy 5 because last Sunday while I was doing the Hesse Trail, we saw a mama moose and a baby moose crossing the road. Happy to see wildlife still in Boulder.
My wife spent many years working with her mother who had Alzheimer's. It was very, very unpleasant.
Thank you. All right, anyone back here? Oh, wonderful.
So happy dollars to Alzheimer's. And this one is really a huge shout out to Angie, who talked me off the ledge last night regarding a very emotional issue with Boulder County 4-H and Boulder County Fair. But she did it magically while she was driving and entering a hospital in California to visit her brother. So I'm sure Daniel knows more about this now as well. So it was, I can only, $5 is not enough for my appreciation for Angie. She was wonderful last night.
I got a happy dollar for Terry Hermsmeyer. Today is her birthday.
I've got a couple bucks here for the Alzheimer's situation. I'm also happy to announce that we're about 90% toward our goal that was established at the dinner. So this time next week, I'm going to bring my checkbook and I'm going to do my thing for all of you that love me and all of you that hate me. I think it worked both ways, because if you love me, you supported me. If you hated me, you want me to write that check. So it's going to happen. And I'm really happy about that. And I appreciate it. Oh, and one other thing. Spent last 3 days in Moab. It was a wrong time of year to go. It was really hot. Yeah. And spent 3 days with my son who's on a road trip. Drove up to Moab after going down the West Coast and through Flagstaff, yada, yada. But we're at our house and it's so much more pleasant here other than the smoke than it was in Moab. And it was smoky there too.
A lot of you know that my son was supposed to have a kidney transplant last Monday. Unfortunately, he got the virus. So he's now in drug therapy for the next 2 weeks to see if the drugs will increase his blood platelets. If he does not, if the body does not regenerate more platelets, he's going to have a blood transfusion, which means that could 50-50 chance that'll eliminate the match of the donor that we have now. So the Miller household is mega stressed out. We should know something Friday with the next lab. But the disease that he has is he won't regenerate. So we will need to have a kidney transplant somewhere between 6 to 8 weeks after he tests negative with the virus. So it's been a tough week.
And my happy bucks are for Jim putting out the challenge and for seeing him write a big check next week. And for everybody else that's donated to this cause. It's really needed and really appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roger. I do also want to say how impressed I am with how good our membership is at holding the microphone right in front of our faces. This is like the first club I've ever been in where everyone is like trained. They're like, yes, the mic will be right in front of my face. So I love that. Well, thank you everyone so much. And I do want to say that the board's happy to announce that we are going to be supporting GA 2030 next month for Happy Bucks. So the donations will continue. So next month they voted that your organization will be getting all the Happy Bucks in August, which is super exciting. Yeah. All right. Well, believe it or not, it is time for our program. Bill, if you want to come up and do introduction, that'd be wonderful.
Well, it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Jack Van Ens. Jack was scheduled to appear in March of 2020, and then we all know what happened then. So here he is back now. Jack is a dramatist, historian, and newspaper commentator. He serves as the executive director of creative growth. He makes history come alive, portraying Thomas Jefferson and colonial preacher Jonathan Edwards in Puritan costumes. Since 1976, Jack has portrayed these pivotal leaders for schools, religious organizations, libraries, and public service groups. He has 2 master's degrees, one in colonial history and a doctorate in communications from Princeton Theological Seminary. He is married to Sandra, a retired educator. They have 3 grown children and 2 grandsons. So welcome, Jack.
Patriots, I want to share with you some deep and lasting reservations that I had towards the original Constitution of the United States. I start with a mystery. You remember that the Constitutional Convention was convened in Philadelphia. It lasted June, July, August, until September the 20th, when the delegates signed the document. of 1787. This is the mystery. I was in Philadelphia during the Constitutional Convention, although I was not in Philadelphia during the Constitutional Convention. And you say, Mr. Jefferson, here you go again. You are showing your duplicitous nature. You either were in Philadelphia or you were not in Philadelphia. Otherwise, you were fulfilling the image of my greatest adversary, Alexander Hamilton. Hamilton said of me, Thomas Jefferson, that I was a chameleon. I was a pure politician. I changed my colors to match the mood of the citizenry. Do you have some politicians that are that way today? Now, how could I be in Philadelphia if I were not in Philadelphia? Well, for the Constitutional Convention, I was not physically in Philadelphia because I was thousands of miles away. I was serving as your ambassador. That's what they called my position in my day. Today, they call it Secretary of State or Secretary of the Treasury and that. We called them ambassadors, and I was your ambassador to France. I was in Paris. I came in 1784. The Constitutional Convention was in 1789. I left when the Bastille erupted, the prison. And shortly after that, in 1789, I came back to the United States. I came to assist Mr. Franklin. You've heard of Benjamin Franklin, have you not? Yes, and he was assisted by John Adams, and you've heard of him, who became our second president. Well, sometimes you lump together all of us patriots, Hamilton and Betsy Ross and myself and George Washington, along with Benjamin Franklin. But history will show you that Franklin was of the generation before the rest of us. And so he was well along in age. And he had gout, and so he was limping along, and he said, I want to get back to Philadelphia before I die. Adams needed to have some help, and so I became his assistant. When John Adams was then appointed to be ambassador to England, I was your ambassador through 1789. So with the Constitutional Convention in 1787, I could not be there physically, but read the Constitution once again. And you will see, with deliberate reading, you will see the shadow of a hand, literally, as it descends upon that document. And as you look at that hand more perfectly, you will see that it is the hand of myself, Thomas Jefferson. I influenced the Constitution for the good. And the original Constitution, once again, raised my ire, my anger. And I said, right quick, it must be changed. It must be transformed because of the errors that are embedded within the Constitution. Let me begin the story this way. James Madison was a close contact of mine. He was a beloved colleague. We were so different in stature, but not so much in temperament. Both of us thought that we could do most of our work through the written word, rather than, as politicians do today, glad-handing you verbally. If we stood next to each other, I was a giant in the land. James Madison was only 5'4" tall. People said behind his back that he was no taller than a half a bar of soap. I was very tall for my age, 6'2" tall. But what joined us together was the stature not of our build, but the stature of our intellect. James Madison was a graduate of the College of New Jersey. You've heard of that, have you not? The College of New Jersey. Some of you are scratching your wigs, I can tell. I have not heard of the College of New Jersey. Well, it is perched halfway between New York and Philadelphia at a stagecoach stop. And there, Presbyterians in 1746 decided to have a training ground for Presbyterian ministers. They were a very reactionary group. You know that the first college was Harvard, but some Christians at New Haven said Harvard is becoming far too progressive, or their derogatory term was liberal in theology. And so they hurriedly formed another college in New Haven. I think you've heard of it as Yale. Then the Presbyterians set a pox on both of those institutions. They are far too progressive. They have strayed from the scriptures. We are going to form our own college, the College of New Jersey, which they did. Oh, you still do not recognize it. Far after my death, in the latter reaches of the 19th century, instead of getting its name from the state in which it was placed, the village in which it was rooted, Princetown. Say it with alacrity. Princeton? Oh, you know Princeton, yes. That's where James Madison graduated from. The only clergy to sign the Declaration of Independence was the president of Princeton, Witherspoon. And one of the things that Princeton taught its graduates was that they must show God's work not only within their hearts, showing compassion and intellectual vigor, but they must show it by entering into society and being an agent for change, for good, in their search for the true, the good, and the beautiful. I, of course, did not graduate from Princeton, the College of New Jersey. I graduated from an Anglican school. You've heard of it in Williamsburg, the College of William and Mary. So James Madison found himself in Philadelphia early on in May of 1787. He was eager for the deliberation to begin, which would eventuate in the creation of the Constitution. But other delegates took their time for worthy reasons. Some had to still plant some of their crops. Others had to navigate the potholes because the roads were so inferior. And so Madison had some time on his hands. He had alerted me that he wanted me to do a favor for him while I was in Paris. And this shows that hand shaping the Constitution even before the Constitutional Convention. He asked of me and he said, I want you to go into the great libraries of Paris. And Jefferson, I want you to gather up all of the tomes, all of the great books that detail the experiments of the Greeks and the Romans for democracy, whether it worked or whether it did not. I was diligent in my task, and a legend came because of that. At the seacoast village of Le Havre, they said that so many crates of my books being shipped to James Madison came that when they were loaded aboard the frigate, why, it groaned in the water and almost sunk. Not quite, but James Madison was very appreciative of the books that I sent. He was the architect of the Constitution. They deliberated for a very long time until September the 17th, like I said. And then out of courtesy, the president of the Constitutional Convention, George Washington, he sent me a preliminary draft, which then became the first document, the first edition of the Constitution. When it arrived, I read it with gladsome enthusiasm until I was crestfallen. I shook my head and said, this cannot be in service to the Republic. Why not? For two reasons, two great reservations that stirred my ire. The first was the original Constitution allowed for a presidency to last a lifetime if elected every term. In fact, it was Alexander Hamilton who made a celebrated address in June, early on during the Constitutional Convention. And he advocated the virtues of having a lifelong president. This was his reasoning. You must know that after the Revolutionary War, the colonies distrusted each other. Oh, they talked favorably about each other, but in their hearts, they wanted all the power to reside within their individual colonies. This was played out so that, let's say that Massachusetts, you were a farmer there, and in your orchard, you are raising apples so abundantly that you have bushels of apples that you want to send to Connecticut. Connecticut gladly would accept the apples, but they said, we're going to charge a tariff. To wit, Massachusetts, when those farmers in Connecticut had their apples and wanted to send them to Massachusetts, Massachusetts said, this is our tariff. And these tariff wars kept on going all the time, and it undercut both economies. They did not get along together. This was under a loose configuration called the Articles of Confederation. The very words signal what they were about. A confederation is not a union. It is not a nation. It is not a republic, but it's a loosely drawn group of people that want to do some things together, but keep most of it, clutching it onto themselves. Another key that the Confederacy, you could say, the Confederation was not going to work was because of the power of taxation. They were very leery of the politicians in New York at first, where our state capital was, then for 10 years in Philadelphia in an interim way, until it came to Washington City. They said, we don't want our tax dollars to go to Washington City eventually. We want to keep them at home. And so very little was done in defense of the nation. They said, we are very leery of a federal army. You realize that in my two terms, from 1801 to 1809, the federal army was no more than 2,500. And that's because those soldiers were used for Indian control, the Indians still east of the Mississippi, largely. Well, what if war came, you said? Well, the colonies and then the states said, well, then we'll have our local militia and they'll naturally rise up and they will fend off the enemies. Well, that did not naturally happen. And so there was disruption after disruption after disruption. And in your language, Alexander Hamilton said, we need to have constancy. We need to have the glue that keeps our nation together. And that symbolic glue is focused within the presidency. And so if we have a president who is diligent in his tasks, if we have a president who can tinkle the right glasses with you and strike your funny bone and make you feel at ease, if we have a president that can cover all the bills without digging deeply into your pockets and keep us from foreign wars, why not? Why not have a president like that over and over and over again? You see, it was our starting point. Alexander Hamilton and his Federalist Party felt more comfortable if you could coalesce government at the top through a head, the president. I felt more comfortable if you could spread the power among the people. And this is where the pitch battles were in colonial times between the Federalists, who wanted the executive branch to be elevated, and my people of the Democratic Republican Party, which I formed with James Madison. Now, I hasten to add that when I say Democratic Republican Party, some of you say, oh, I know of those political groups today. No, no, it has nothing to do with whatever you call the political groups today, but it has everything to do with a concentration that the power is lodged and it is spread through the people rather than coalescing among one, or what we feared even more, if not one, but a few who were wealthy, who said they were wise, who owned property, who had control of the financial purses. When I read that in the Constitution of the United States, I shook my head and I said, woe unto the nation. The wrath of nature's God is going to be upon us if we allow this to happen. I said, even the humblest soul who begins his first term, what if there are fawning sycophants who say, oh, Mr. Jefferson, you are doing such a wonderful job. Oh, Mr. Jefferson, I appreciate your humor. Oh, Mr. Jefferson, your insights are never wrong and they're always so helpful. That kind of chatter around you in your language, do you not begin to believe your own press clippings? Even the humblest soul's mind and spirit becomes enlarged with their own profile. I said, no, 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 no matter how effective a president is, a president, I said in 1787, should not serve for more than 2 terms, 8 years. Did that immediately take effect? Nay, nay. When was it added to the Constitution through amendment? Does anyone remember? Of what century? Oh, the 20th century. Your historians will say that you are familiar with Missouri and a haberdasher that came from Missouri and a haberdasher that had spectacles and a slight man, but a very outspoken man, President Truman, your historians will say. Yes, it was in the later reaches of the 1940s that the wisdom that I articulated so many years before finally took effect through amendment. Now remember that, folks. When you have sterling ideals, the price that you pay for your ideals is that many times they do not take effect in your life. And so people compromise then. They become wishy-washy. They want instant effects. The second great reservation I had, and I quickly penned this to James Madison. I said, there is no visible Bill of Rights. Well, there was not. Now you have the first 10 amendments, you call it the Bill of Rights. Madison came back to me and said, but you must know this, that it's implicit within the Constitution. Just read it carefully and you will see rights there. He said, we cannot afford to publish any rights explicitly, because if you publish 10 rights, somebody is going to come along and say, well, you forgot 3. And there's going to be arguments and sandbagging until the Constitution will not be ratified just because you are articulated these rights. I said that might be a growing danger, but rights are precious. And anything that is precious can easily be perverted, can it not? Authentic love, generosity of spirit, can easily degenerate into lechery and lust. The good perverted to the bad. Your ambition to do the best you can grows until you want to get ahead, until you stomp on the needs and rights of others because you want to be primo, you want to be number one. Good ambition can become overriding in the precious can most easily be perverted. And so I argued strenuously, with my hand shaping the Constitution, being so many miles away, a presidency for only 2 terms, and a Bill of Rights to protect your rights. Do not ever fall for what Uncle Sam says in times of tension within the nation. Uncle Sam will come to you and say, now, I do not want to rob you of your rights, but I want to borrow your patriots' rights. I want to use them for patriotic acts. And as soon as I am done with that, I will summarily return them to you once again. The intentions might be true, but the completion never is. And the rights are taken from you. As the signers came to the table in Philadelphia, your historians will tell you that Benjamin Franklin was there too. And Franklin looked at the chair in which the president of the Constitutional Convention, George Washington, sat. He was no longer seated there. The chair was vacant. And there in the mahogany was carved a sun. A brilliant sun. And many people scratched their wigs and said, is that the setting sun? Or is that the rising sun? I like to think that because of my constructive criticisms, Benjamin Franklin was right. It took some time, but for you to attach a Bill of Rights explicitly, for you to honor that the wisest move is to have a presidency of no more than 2 terms, those signal what Benjamin Franklin said. With this Constitution signed, the sun is rising. And with that, I thank you. I am not used to these marvels that you introduced me to, but I understand that although I look blankly into space, some of you can see me. And so I open it up for questions. Now it might be a comment or a question. And some people say, well, I don't know my history that well. I don't want to embarrass myself. Truly, even the simplest question might elicit a more substantial question next time. So come. Let us converse together. Yes, Patriot.
Mr. Jefferson, in 1803, you're credited with Louisiana Purchase, a vast amount of territory from the Republic of France. How did France come to own that land that the United States could purchase?
Well, that has got a very seamy and difficult and intricate history. You might want to invite me back to talk about the strains and tensions within the Louisiana Purchase. I would only say this, that Spain owned great sections of it at times too, but then they ran into debt, and in covert ways, France took much of it. And then what happened was, in one of the islands, Santo Domingo, have you heard of that? Yes, I think you have a Haiti there now, and a Dominican Republic and that sort of thing. They lost some of their crackerjack troops because the natives uproused, and all of that. They finally just said, we want nothing to do with it. And the people in power, largely on the East Coast, my enemies, said, that is the most ridiculous idea. This is a great American desert that's not worth anything. And of course, you know that your territory here is part of that purchase. Yes. But if you want to go into detail, we can talk about it afterwards. Better yet, it is a good question that presses for a greater answer. So invite me back. Yes, sir.
I think it's been 10 or 15 since you presented at Sanchez Elementary School.
Oh, I bow to you that you remember that yet. Yes, with all those young patriots, I did that for several years.
When I saw you, I knew who you were. Have you changed your pitch over the years that much?
How so?
Well, I just wondered what you personally have to do to stay up, and you are still up for this presentation that you did it how many times?
Oh, I give several presentations. An admirer of mine, a Jack Van Ens, can tell you more about that. I am too humble to talk about it, but I have perhaps 25 set presentations. But I have done this, says Van Ens, since 1976, the bicentennial year. And so if you give me a need, I can fly off those 25 standard programs and do a bit. And says Van Ens, who is getting decidedly older, that if I can stand on my feet and go for 45 minutes without a note, I do not have both feet in the grave yet.
So I have one question for you as well. What does Thomas Jefferson think about the Patriot Act?
You bring a question that I cannot answer, not because I am evasive, but I am a child of my times. All I can say is this, that I was very suspicious of the concentration of power within the government. The government, and when I use the word power, I mean, who decides? Yes, the government makes some decisions, but I wanted to lodge things within the people, always. That's where it started with me. And so all I can say is this, I cannot give you a specific answer to that, but if you would take my guiding principles and lay them on the dough, so to speak, of your human experience, you will see carved out in that dough a direction towards which I lean. So I know Tempus Fugit, you have many other responsibilities. If you want to talk to this Jack Van Ens, who follows me around quite a bit, in fact, if I look like him and he looks like me, it's strictly coincidental. But all of my contact information is here. And if you have acquaintances or groups that would appreciate a presentation from the president, please remember my name. I would be most honored.
Well, Thomas Jefferson and your Jack Van Ens, we very much appreciate your presentation, your time. It was insightful, it was entertaining, and it will keep us thinking about our patriotism. So as a token of our gratitude, we wanted to give you the whole world in the palm of your hand.
Oh, my.
As a diplomat, I'm sure that is very valuable to you because you can always know where you are. So thank you very much.
I have a great collection over the years of pens from Rotary, but nothing as distinctive as this. Thank you very much.
Well, with that, we're coming to the end of our meeting today, and I just wanted to thank everyone for coming in.
Okay.
We're gonna try a bell chime, but this time it's going to be through the computer because we do not have our bell. So, and my adopted slogan at the end: if it's Wednesday, it's Rotary. There you go.
And do take the free handouts that are on the sheet on the table if you wish.